welcome to Nitpicks and Nitpicks. How I feel and get into the review, because it's mostly you want to have fun with it. You know what I mean? Seeing it the first time, I got my own impressions of it. I seen it in the theater, but I didn't get to see it from the very beginning. I came back to watch it again, and I have a lot of thoughts onto it, but that's a film that's going to open up the conversation for a lot of things, from marketing to whether it's successful or not. But really, here when we touch on all of that, but this is a film review, so we're going to review the film on its picks and the nitpicks. And then we're going to also talk about what we liked and what we didn't like as well. So stay tuned. I'm going to watch it again. So this is going to be my second time watching from front to back. Third time basically watching it, because like I said, I missed the first 20 to 30 minutes the first time I seen it. And it wouldn't have been fair for me to give you a report onto it when I haven't gotten enough of the film. With that being said, now, let's go check this out one more again. And welcome to the Flicks, Picks, and the Nitpicks, and I am your humble host, S01EP012, and for a special edition, and hopefully it won't be so special because we'll get this guy here on the regular, we are going to do our first review together, so hope you guys enjoy it. But I brought my man T, Mr. T, the truth. Would you like to just say something to the audience real quick and introduce yourself a little bit?
My name is T. The T stands for my own personal, the truth. One of my heroes in life is Malcolm X, and one of his statements is, beyond everything, I'm just looking for the truth. And I think that, not a religious man, but I do honestly believe in that statement, the truth will set you free. I like that. I like to search for the truth.
Yeah, man. Hey, man, the truth, like you said, will set you free, and it's just unwavering. And hopefully we can get to the truth of Birds of Prey. Now, we're going to start off first by a little brief, just talk about the Birds of Prey movie. I'll set us off real quick because unlike any other film, Birds of Prey actually had to achieve some major things. One of which was, first off, it was already an uphill battle to begin with, coming out of, the DCU, Zack Snyder leaving, people not being sure, trying to figure out what the fans actually wanted. So I felt like coming out of, what's the film that she was in the ensemble again?
Suicide
Squad. Coming out of Suicide Squad, one of the saving graces of it, when it was a box office hit, it actually was. For some reason, I recall all the backlash of the stories and on all other stuff coming at the back end, like after the movie was out, after it resonated for a little bit. I feel like that's when the critique from the fans came out in terms of it not being up to its standard. Because how I remember when it first came out, it was pretty damn good. For the most part, everybody kind of knew was certain little things here and there.
I think it did almost 800. I think it was 800 million worldwide, but 7.
Yeah, no, and I thought it was closer to 6, but neither here nor there, it actually was a hit. The thing is, though, now coming out of it, one of the biggest saving graces was Will Smith and, of course, Harley Quinn. So it was obviously very easy that they were going to center it around Harley Quinn, especially after things with Jared Leto. So, first off, one thing I would like to say about this film is it had an uphill battle to begin with, coming out of where the DCEU left. Not sure if they was gonna have a Leto. One thing they had to make sure this film had to do was make Harley Quinn stand on her own. Will Smith is not gonna be there to bounce off of his star power and his wit, so she was gonna have to carry this movie herself. Now, also another thing they had to do was redirect away from the Joker. We wasn't sure what was gonna happen with Jared Leto. It was a poor reception from what he brought to the table. The hour cut aside, from what everyone's seen, there was a lot of some people. For some reason, I feel like it's more mixed reactions because you see people kind of embrace it, but for some reason, the vocal majority really came down hard on Jared Leto's depiction of the Joker. So this film had to redirect from the Joker and provide DC's answer to Deadpool in terms of being kind of an anti-hero. Now, for me, I gotta get out the way all the time. I'm easily entertained, so I'm still entertained by this film. It just depends on what kind of entertainment you would like to have from it and where it needs to be. But then that will kind of get into my picks and things of that nature. So without further ado, T, let me know if you'd like to talk a little bit briefly about this film.
Well, I mean, you touched on a lot of things, and I'm just gonna go backtrack to where you were at Suicide Squad. And I completely agree with everything you said about the uphill battle. And the saving grace was Will Smith and Margot Robbie as Deadshot, almost said Deadpool, my God. Deadshot and Harley Quinn chemistry. Just a little backstory to that. For those of you wondering why there was such good chemistry, they had already previously worked together on a movie called Focus. And if you haven't seen the movie, I actually do recommend the movie Focus. And I will say that Will Smith and Margot Robbie had great chemistry on that film. So coming into Suicide Squad, they already had a relationship, and you can see in both movies they just have a natural chemistry about them.
Now I'd have to go watch Focus again. I remember liking it. You really capped up on their chemistry together in that film as well, which is gonna make me really want to revisit it again just for that, because it's been quite some time. But
it's actually I do like the movie Focus, and I will say, I saw they really got good chemistry, and since I saw Focus and then saw Suicide Squad, to me, I even said when I saw Suicide Squad, I actually was more interested in her and Deadshot's relationship as opposed to her and Harley Quinn, the Joker. But that's also because, I think they already had a natural chemistry about them. So when you have this ensemble cast, Will Smith and Margot Robbie have already worked together on screen. Where the rest of them, I think, may have just come together for the movie. They've already previously worked together.
I mean, I do feel like as a squad, they did bounce off each other relatively well. I mean, I feel like each character actually felt like they were their own character unto themselves. Now, did each character get as much shine? That might be another kind of conversation.
Yeah. All right, let's jump into Birds of Prey. Where do you want to start?
All right, well, I'm going to lead off with, this is the section where we already know the flick. We got our brief overview, and obviously this movie been out for quite some time, so we could just get straight to the spoilers. We're going to get into the picks. Now, my major pick in this film was actually what they got the Oscar for.
Before we get into picks, why don't you give what the story's about?
I mean, well, we already know relatively the story was, for the most part, was about Harley Quinn, and she had one long day after breaking up with the Joker. So one of the ways in which she tried to symbolize this was to drive an ace truck and basically blow up the place that not only birthed her, he was birthed at himself, which kind of sprung off a triggering effect of, basically, everyone knows that the Joker and her broke up. Now, everybody that has an axe to grind with Harley Quinn without the protection of the Joker, everyone is coming for her, including one in particular is the, Black Mask. Now, Black Mask, basically, he's looking for a diamond, and that becomes a MacGuffin of the film, so to speak. because someone steals the diamond, which is Cassandra Cain, and basically now they have to go look for the person that has it. And the catch-22 is it's so comical is that she swallowed the diamond. So that being said, it's not really much of a strong plot.
No.
So with that, so to get right into the picks of it, like I said, one of the major picks for me, and I will say it could be it's a positive and a negative, was the costume designs. What stood out to me mostly was Harley Quinn. She navigated. We already know she navigated from the shorts and everything down into the oversuit and whatnot. The reasons for it, I thought that never needed to be expressed. If you just understand the climate in which we are with identity politics. Unfortunately, and that was one of the uphill battles towards the film, because people kind of cognitively knew exactly why it was, and it was political statements. But political statements aside, I was not mad at her outfit. It just at times just came off a little too juvenile, and I know that's a stretch from the woman that wore a full onesie, but still. But that being said, it still was within the realm of Harley Quinn, and her costumes was really not an issue to me, to be quite honest. Where I get into costume designs, even though for the film I know that they were trying to make, and I think this is one of the bigger issues with the film, was its identity. I didn't really see much of a costume with any of the Birds of the Prey, and I know this is supposed to be when they come together, but even at the very end, when you get the unveiling of their 70s-esque, 80s-esque outfits, it just looked like, well, I guess it matches the movie that you were trying to depict, but unfortunately, for the film that you were trying to break out, I felt like the costumes just didn't hit the mark. What's your pick?
Well, now picks being positive though, right?
No, not necessarily. That's what I said, the things that step out. What do you pick out?
So I'm gonna pick out something that stood out for me, and I'm gonna start with the positive, right? For me, what stood out for me, which I think is a positive, and I'm gonna go straight to the acting. I actually think that Margot Robbie actually owns the role. I actually think that from Suicide Squad to Birds of Prey, it is really Harley Quinn is her. Kind of like Indiana Jones, Harrison Ford is Indiana Jones. Or Harrison Ford is Han Solo, or Keith Sutherland is Jack Bauer. I think that she really takes ownership of the role. That really stood out to me.
So that's your one pick? No, we got to go back and forth. So that's your next pick. Right?
That's my one pick. I guess
all right.
That's my one pick.
So this is where I come in now with my pick, which happened to be the same. My second major pick was Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn. I thought, all in all, she's a great character actor for this character. She brings a lot to the role in terms of just owning it. So now when you see Margot Robbie, you see Harley Quinn. As soon as she wears the outfit, she lives, and breathes Harley Quinn. And I thought that's one of the main reasons why she got the role, off of just pure swag and just owning the role. You see how many women wanted to dress up just like Margot Robbie for Halloween that year. And ever since, Harley Quinn is a standout of the film that came from before, and we see exactly why I hate to say just giving her a film, but the reason why she headed the film, and which is part of the reasons why I have to also say part of that pick is also not a positive. Yes, she owns the role, but now she had nothing to do with it. The dialogue was weak as shit. Yes, I understand that she has a quirky, kind of childlike attitude. She's kind of been like that since her inception in an animated series. But without a story to give her, she just sounded like she was just going from one juvenile gag to the other. It just almost felt like I could almost believe that they didn't really have much of a script, and you didn't really need one. It was just all It was the plot, and the plot didn't hold the film together. It was one thing with such a small plot that you would have had the biggest opportunity was to peel the layers of the character, and unfortunately they missed the mark on it. They try to give her a moment where she tried to psychoanalyze someone on the level of a psychiatrist, and like I said, if this was the Joel Schumacher universe, it would have worked. But if you're trying to have such a weak plot, why didn't you have her really break down characters in a more psychological way? I mean, I felt like we didn't even call in a psychologist in on this one just to go over some of the scenes. Like, if you were a psychologist, how would you break apart the person there? So at least we could see why you'd even want to keep Harley Quinn around. Otherwise, it's like she's just a bumbling idiot throughout the film, going from one caper to another caper, basically surviving on all sheer luck like she's Domino. And I thought that's, as much as Margot Robbie owned the role, without a dialogue for her to have something to peel with it, it just left her kind of one-dimensional, one note. Your take or your pick?
My next pick, and I'm going to stick with the positive, is what I consider to be the standout of the movie. And it wasn't Margot Robbie. I actually found the most interesting character was Huntress.
Okay.
I thought that was the most interesting character. I forget the actress's name. She
worked with Will Smith in a movie too. The twin joint.
Gemini Man.
Gemini Man, yeah.
She was in Gemini Man. I do remember. I was about to say that. She was on Gemini Man. I cannot remember.
I hear a lot of good stuff about her as an actress, though, from a lot of other people.
But I will say that Huntress, I found that character to be the most interesting character with the most interesting background. When she was on screen, I was actually engaged in her, and even the running gag about how she introduces herself, I thought was cool. And that was a standout for me. And this is someone who, in the movie, I mean, the truth of the matter is, the others besides Margot Robbie, when you take the totality of the movie, don't have a lot of screen time. It's the Margot Robbie show, and I get it. But I will say that I do believe that she was a standout. So that is another pick for me. I think that the actress who played Huntress and the character of Huntress was actually, for me, the most interesting character in the movie.
I mean, I my take is I actually would agree. I would agree. It kind of actually goes into my next pick. I mean, Huntress, yes, she actually had the story to if you really want to pay attention, she was probably more the MacGuffin than the actual diamond, because her thing was threaded throughout everyone, which goes into my next pick, the Birds of Prey. The reason why I picked all of them was because I just thought that they wasn't really that impressive as the Birds of Prey, to be quite honest. This, like I said again, this movie suffers from not exactly, unfortunately, for it to be in a universe, you'd expect it to be kind of off the last movie a little bit, and in a lot of ways, aesthetically, how it looked, it was, but at the same time, it kind of wasn't. Like I said, they were kind of extremely goofy. They were really goofy, and like I said, as a group, when you seen them at the diner talking, you can actually see they had like a kind of a cute kind of way they bounce off each other. Huntress, I like that, how they try to play her up as the tough girl, but she's really socially awkward. I found that to actually work for me. I just would have rather it been in a better film with a better plot for her. I mean, with better script writing for her. Poor baby, Journey Smollett. You know, she was trying the best to squeeze as much water out that dry ass cracker. Like, she tried to come in and she tried to bring some extra drama to it that this film would gave you nothing, and she tried to get as much out of it. But that little girl, yes, she's cute, but oh my gosh, there was I'm sorry, I don't know what movie she was in that made her a good act. I felt like I could see her acting a lot, and I think a lot of it was, again, the script. There was nothing. This was a moment where you could have peeled a lot more out. Harley Quinn is supposed to be a psychologist. Why isn't she breaking people apart in some type of way that'll make you go, oh, I see what she's doing? She's not dumb like she's. When the moment when they try to do it, she has to be so on the nose that she has to give you commentary while she's doing it. And to me, it's like, well, then you took the cleverness out of it. So it was like everything is on the nose. Then what would have been the point to do this film otherwise, other than you trying your best to be your DC version of Deadpool? And it, like I said, I mean, if it was the Joel Schumacher universe, it'd work better for me. But it just didn't work. The Birds, they didn't work. Oh, and Rosie Perez. And this is a woman that's a credible actress, and she was just coming off very amateur-like. And it's not her fault. The script was weak. You know, there was no type of physical chemistry between her and her so-called partner. So I didn't even see the point why they were, you know? And even if you wanted to put it, like I said, there was no real, it just felt like there was no chemistry in it. And then sometimes she even came off like an old fuddy-duddy, just trying to make it work with the action. It just, like I said, it just, for me, unless it is the Joel Schumacher universe, which I feel like that just before the last set piece, that whole action sequence at the circus, that was so Joel Schumacher's Batman and Robin, Batman, and the last one with the with what was the fourth, Batman Foreverist. That it was just, we were just going right into that type of lane, and for me, it just didn't hit. It didn't hit for it was like this is why you wanted to do a Harley movie. Okay. like that's how I felt. Like not to crap on it. It is what it is, but it is what it is. I just felt like the birds, they just, I guess it'll be mostly negative on that, on my third pick. They just didn't fulfill the task.
Well,
Your next pick.
Well, you touched on it, Rosie Perez. I am a Rosie Perez fan from Do the Right Thing, White Man Can't Jump. And Rosie Perez is a credible actress. And for those of you who don't know, Rosie Perez is an Oscar-nominated actress.
What film again?
I remember the film. It's with Nicolas Cage. It's a film filmed in New York. It's with Nicolas Cage, and he wins the lotto. I just remember. But Rosie Perez has been nominated for an Oscar. Rosie Perez is a credible actress. And where I first saw Rosie Perez was on an episode in 21 Jump Street. Just a fun fact I like to throw out there. She did a murder. Her boyfriend went to jail for her. And Johnny Depp's character, Hanson, tried to prove that she was the actual one who did the murder, but her boyfriend went to the death penalty for her. That was the first time I saw Rosie Perez.
Okay.
So
how do you feel about her in Birds of Prey?
I'm gonna be really just quick about it. I think it was beneath her. I think that as a credible actress as she is, she should have been able to read that script and say no. Now, obviously, it could be just a cash grab. Hey, maybe it's got a good budget. You know, let's be honest. We don't really see Rosie Perez out there like that. She was on The View with Whoopi Goldberg for like a season and left. So, and she pops up here and there. But, so it could be a cash grab. You know what I mean? Hey, I always remember Eddie Murphy said this joke about the movie Best Defense. He was like, after he did 48 Hours, which was a hit, Trading Places, which was a hit, They came to him with the script. He does it on Saturday Night Live. And he goes, we got this movie called Best Effect, and he reads the script. He goes, this is nonsense. And they go, but here's what you check. And he goes, okay, when do I start? So I don't know if it's a cash grab, but I found her character annoying. I found her annoying in the movie, and I didn't like Rosie Perez in it at all. And I'm a Rosie Perez fan. You know, I really enjoy her acting, you know, in many movies. But in this movie, I think that her character is the epitome of the word miscast. She's just miscast. But then again, it could be just the script. Because you did touch on something, and obviously I'm jumping off, is the Journey Smollett, which I felt the same way. It was just she was squeezing all the juice out of that orange. And she has and for those who don't know it, Journey Smollett was in the show, I don't know if many people saw it, called Underground. I thought she did really well. And she's actually the star of this HBO series. It's kind of like it's like a civil rights, but a horror show. It's called Lovecraft or something.
Oh, is she part of that? I heard of it, but I haven't seen
it. I saw a few trailers on HBO. I must admit, it looks really interesting. So, you know, but I think that, again, like, she saw an opportunity, but there wasn't much for her to do. And she tried to squeeze everything out of it. So I do agree with that, but if I had to... So I guess I could combine those two. Two credible actresses just in roles that they couldn't get nothing out of. So I guess I'll make an amendment. So that's my nitpick number 3 is just two credible
Not nitpick, your pick, one of your major picks that stood out. Because we'll go into nitpicks later. But this is your major picks, so your major standout.
That was my major one, was Rosie Perez.
Alright. And again, my last major pick was plot and script. That was one of the major picks that stood out for me, and unfortunately, that would be mostly negative. I mean, like the plot, a simple plot. One thing that a simple plot will lend you to is a lot more time for character development. So if you didn't want to get too complex, because sometimes the plot is very plot heavy and plot complex, you might lose sight of getting to know the characters, and especially if it's supposed to be an ensemble. Which, to be fair, I'm not sure if they knew it was supposed to be an ensemble or not. Because I think the actors might have thought that they were going to be an ensemble, but they should have known this was Harley Quinn featuring you guys. You know what I'm saying? But again, one thing with a small plot, like let's follow the diamond, then what should be the journey to get there? And on the journey, you should get to know these characters in a certain kind of way that should make you fall for them. Now, Harley Quinn was already, everyone was gone. She comes out of this film the best, even though let's be for real, even though the media did try to save it for its own, for all intents and purposes. Had this been any other film, this would have been crapped on and panned by everyone. And it's having its fair share by the fan community as well. But like I said, a lot of politics got tied up into it, and I think that was another thing that they should not have done. But with a small plot, with a simple plot, you should have, that's where your script should have went to work overtime. We should have got to see that, even though the method to Harley Quinn's madness on some sort of level, so she didn't seem one note, that we will follow this all the way through. Or with a simple plot and even simple script, you as a director, that's where you could have reigned supreme. But you only reigned supreme in the action sequences, which was shot by someone else. Now, I get, like, to combat against breaking the third wall, what could have worked here. How people even told me of the film before I seen it, and others have talked about it, was that the way Harley Quinn works is you're never exactly sure if what we saw in the movie, because it's her narrative, is actually what we've seen. Now, I thought beforehand, before I seen it, I was like, is this where they're gonna shine? Where it'll seem like the world looks this goofy to her, but then the camera will pan off and you'll feel like you're in a different kind of movie. It would have been jumping from like, she's really in a serious film, but in her mind she treats it as if it's all goofy. Now that would have been a movie where the director would have had to really go extra hard in shooting in such a creative manner that you won't lose the audience in it. And what a simple plot and a simple script will allow you to do is to make that your focus. So you kept it real simple, because you don't want to be too complex if you're going to be jumping from her personality to the real world. But unfortunately, they didn't. All they did was use her as a narrator to be like she's breaking the fourth wall. Use a hodgepodge of drawings, which kind of worked. Like I said, if this was the Joel Schumacher universe, I'd be like, all right, I guess, because it would have fit. But it was like, am I supposed to take this serious, or is this like real, just a stylized, like, throwaway film? Because it just seemed purposeless. Like, why did we need this? This is why you got Harley Quinn in the Suicide Squad. I mean, if we're talking about, like, I need an ensemble and you're gonna mix it with metahumans and her, this was a moment where you could have figured out a way to show why Harley was a real legitimate threat in a world of gods. And if it was her being manipulative or being a psychologist, understanding how to break people apart to get what she needed to be, I felt like that would have been more effective. And in any event, like I said, the plot in the script was just my last major pick. It was weak. It was not strong enough to carry these credible actors. Like, and you had some credit, and I've heard a lot about the woman Huntress. A lot of people said she's actually a real good actress, and I liked her little cute thing where she's like awkward in the mirror, and I liked that. But again, just a weak plot, a weak script. Isn't this really unfortunate, because you actually had some talent there? Your take or your pick?
My take on everything you said was, I could agree, and my final pick is an interesting one, because my final pick is Harley Quinn, the action star.
Okay.
You kind of touched on it, but we have a world where we have Batman, Superman, all these things, right? I don't understand how Harley Quinn is kicking ass.
I thought you was gonna say you liked the. I thought you was really gonna say you liked the action sequences and stuff like that.
No, because and even with Huntress, you get a background of why she's an assassin. She was trained by this. You know, some of them have powers. I don't understand how Harley Quinn is beating everyone up. I watched Harley Quinn walk into a police station like Arnold Schwarzenegger did in The Terminator, with this gun that shot like confetti. And she was taking out all the cops. Now, this is someone who had no powers, no super serum. There's no background of her training with assassins. Like, and again, we live in this superhero world, but even Huntress, even Marvel's Black Widow or Hawkeye or something, or even Batman. Batman had to go on the mountain and train with Ra's al Ghul. You know what I mean? Deadshot is a human, but he's got this great shot. Like, Harley Quinn's boyfriend is the Joker. The Joker was never a fighter. He was never a fighter.
Nah. I mean, some iterations they beef him up, but that's never been his thing.
But he's right. That's what I'm saying. So, explain to me why Harley Quinn is this gigantic threat.
See, if I may jump in with one thing, I will say with what Joker leveled himself against the superhero was he had this superhuman ability of being out of his fucking mind.
Yeah, but
they've always been clear. No, I understand that. So I'm just parroting off of what you said. I think if you have a guy that he has no powers and his super ability is how superly insane he is, they should have gave something that. How did she beating people up? Did she train? I mean, I'm assuming that's where you're coming from, right?
Yeah, I want to know how Harley Quinn is just beating up everybody. Again, you know, we live in this fantasy world, and that's great. But I'll use Huntress as the best example. Even her, there's a backstory of being family being assassinated. They didn't kill her. She was taken off to this secret thing, and she trained with assassins. You can look at Black Widow, was in this program. You can look. There's no super serum for Harley Quinn. How is Harley Quinn just beating everybody up? How does she walk into a police station with high heels and shorts and a gun that shoots confetti and runs to a police station? At least when Arnold Schwarzenegger did it, he was a robot. He was a robot. And that actually did bother me throughout the movie. And you know what it really bothered me? Guess when?
When?
When they did Huntress's background. When they did Huntress's background, for some reason, it just clicked, and I just said, how is Harley Quinn just beating everybody up? That is a big there is no explanation why this woman who's
not one that they left on screen, not that I could think of.
But even in Suicide Squad, there is no mention of her being trained at all. She met Joker, and she says it in Suicide, and she says in her, she met him at an insane asylum. She went to school to study psychology. Nowhere in here did they mention she learned Taekwondo, Jiu-Jitsu, boxing.
I know she was into ballet, and the thing is, I'm trying to remember, is when they did the opening credits for the film, did they not, when they did the cartoon, like when she went to college and stuff, I think they showed it.
She was a troublemaker. That's it. She was a troublemaker. She got into fights and was a troublemaker.
Then I might be thinking about the animated series, because the animated series they let it be known that she was in a gymnastics little prodigy or whatever.
Even if she wasn't gymnastics.
I mean that goes for the acrobatics. At least it accounts for the acrobatics. So you could assume she just mixed it with some fists and kicks. I don't know.
Yeah, so that was a big thing for me. And to be honest, if they never did Huntress's background, I probably wouldn't have thought about it. I probably would not have thought about Harley Quinn and the physicality until they did Huntress's background. And I'm like, well, that explains why this person with no powers is deadly. Okay, Harley, you don't have the backing of the Joker. Nobody's scared of you. How are you just beating everybody up? How?
Nah, you got no words for me. I mean, I have no rebuttals. I mean, it stands out. I see what you're saying.
At least we live in this world where there's superheroes and people with tight. Right. But even Batman, there's an explanation as why he can fight. There's an explanation. Bruce Wayne disappeared for 7 years. There's an explanation.
So can I challenge you with this? Do you think that they needed some sort of expedition to at least...
I think that, there needs to be some explanation as to why Harley Quinn could just beat up everybody.
I mean,
how she can
I can respect that. I can respect that because they never really went into her backstory. And again, like I said, they never really... For such a simple plot, you could have actually developed the character to a level where you could have, even if I wasn't mad when you wanted to do the cartoon and stuff, it's just that pick the way you want to do it, so at least we can flesh these characters out. If this got to be her film, I think they could have peeled back the layers on Harley Quinn, but then again, you would have probably had to employ Joker because that's the only time she was that type of interesting. And unfortunately, without Jared Leto being able to be part of the film, I guess they was trying real hard to do a hard pivot, and they never really thought about, should we develop Harley Quinn in this film?
Yeah, and that's my big one. That's my big one.
All right, you had any other picks? You had any other picks before we go into our nitpicks?
I'm good.
All right, so now nitpicks. I got 3, and my first nitpick was, again, like I said, the tone was kinda all over the place. And the reason why I say kinda, because like I said, if I'm trying to judge this film against itself, I don't want to judge the film against what should be in my mind. And I think that's one thing I'm trying my best to. But when you have a cinematic universe, you still want to see a thorough line between everything. And I felt like aesthetically it looked like it lived in the same world that David Ayer created, but at the same time tonally it was just, again, it was too juvenile. Like they really played her like a juvenile, and I get it. Like I said, this is, the character was kind of like that in animated series, but it was always bouncing off of Mr. J. You dig? Off of Joker. By herself, she kind of showed this. Like I said again, this one childish note throughout the whole thing, and there was never a real moment where it seemed like I see why Joker would keep you around outside of the goofy nature of you. Like, you had to have some sort of thing to keep him, some sort of stimulus. It would have been just nice to see what that could have been, or seen certain things within the film that would have let you know that, nah, she's literally not stupid. Instead of having to explain-o-vision it to the little girl in a whatever aisle that they was in the grocery store. It just felt like I said, it was kind of all over the place. Like, I didn't know if I should take this as an Abbott Costello film, or should I take this legitimately as a credible addition to your universe. I mean, at the same time, I also know they kind of did a heel-toe pivot, because even Aquaman was kind of on the Marvel side of things. Not as a bad thing, but again, coming out of where we were coming from, it just didn't, it gave a disjointed energy. But the only difference is at least Aquaman was still able to hit it and still be fun all the way through and through. And even though myself, again, I'm easily entertained, I do like a well-crafted film. And unfortunately, with the tone not being on point and feeling like you're developing your characters, I'd have to be respectful to say the tone was just all over the place again for me. And that was one of my big nitpicks. If we could have just find a tone that we wanted to stick with and just play it out, I think they would have had a lot more success, at least with me taking it as a more credible film. Your nitpick?
Mine is the action sequences. And the reason why it's a nitpick and not a big pick is because the movie as a whole, I think, is just goofy. I think the tone of the movie is goofy. And that's not an insult. Bill and Ted's Dumb and Dumber is a goofy movie. You know what I mean? So when I use the word goofy, it's not an insult. The tone of the movie for me is just goofy. But I found the action sequences goofy. Like, that police station sequence is annoying to me.
Oh, wow. No entertainment value.
No, at all. I found it annoying. I found it very kindergarten. I found it very childish. Walking around with the confetti gun, and I found that whole sequence annoying.
Dang, that's pretty strong.
And again, the reason I could nitpick, because the whole movie's goofy, so that kind of fits in the goofiness of the movie. But I just found that even that particular one stuck out the most, was that police station sequence with her. I found no redeeming quality in that whole sequence. It was just a goofy scene.
I feel it.
And then, like I said, the reason why it's a nitpick is because the whole movie's goofy, so it fits with the movie. But I just thought it really was just goofy.
Fair enough. I mean, I guess my next nitpick is I had to smooth it around, because the funny thing is, and I don't know if you noticed, the whole time we spoke on everything, that we already at the 42-minute mark. Mm-hmm. And we're dripping at the very end of this, and this, especially this last segment, and no one didn't notice one obvious thing. Did you notice anything? Not one of us brought up the villains.
Oh, that was my next one.
Because I had to move one out because my next
that was my
nitpick
next
was gonna be the dialogue. But again, I think I stressed dialogue enough in some sort of iterations that you could kind of tell that the dialogue could have been so much better that I had to say, you know what? And even when I was doing my notes, I realized I didn't bring up no villains, and I was curious to know if you would have. Because if all the picks that came out, if we could pick out all these other things, and but way before we even get to the villains, which the DC has been usually known for to knock it out the park and have some real credible villains, to get to the end part and the villain not come up. But I had to, not for villain's sake, when I looked at my nitpick, I was like, I wanted to really focus on Margot Robbie's dialogue, but I felt like I touched enough on it that I had to say, in particular, the villains. And the villains was not impressive at all. Don't get me wrong, it did feel like that you let what's his name again?
Ewan
McGregor. I was about to call him Obi-Wan. But it just felt like you just said, hey, this guy might be gay, he's supposedly crazy, and he's got like a weird complex, about, like, he's real off. And they was like, that's all you need to go. Now run birdie, or birdie fly. And it was like, that's all you gave him. And it just looked like he just winged it. And don't get me wrong, he looked like he had fun, but the guy was, I felt like for another credible actor, I think someone else could have directed him to come off like a real wicked villain. Even with those big tenets you clearly wanted. You wanted him to be sexually ambiguous. You wanted him to be kind of flamboyant. You wanted him to be all of these type of things, and I guess extra macho while being uber sensitive. And these were all the tenets that you really wanted to display in this villain. And he comes off like he belongs in a Joel Schumacher film, except just a little bit more rated R, like a little rated R-ish. Otherwise, like, again, he wasn't someone to fear, and sometimes him being over the top kind of read as you being over the top, like you were just trying to be as stereotypical to those tenets. I mean, not even to those tenets, just a stereotypical, like, what is it, mustache twirling villain with those tenets in there, and you're a credible actor. It just, for the film that they had, I guess it worked, since they were bouncing all over the place in tones, that his shifting weirdness, I guess, might have fit. But again, for me, as a villain, and when the villain's usually supposed to shine, him and Victor Zsasz, and that could have been an interesting thing. Again, with less plot, you could have really, if you really wanted to make it ambiguous, there was ways you could have shot that and really made. I mean, we've seen this kind of dubious kind of way be done to great effect in what is it? Interview with the Vampire. You've seen how like the companionship and how, I ain't going front, like, I watched it when I was real small, Interview with the Vampire, but watching as you get older, you can kind of notice some of those walking those real fine lines. And it's like they did that with a better effect. And they weren't even trying to allude to that. Or maybe they were, but I just kind of thought it was just the nature of the villain in that film, nature of the vampires in those films. They were very kind of had an androgynous kind of way with them. So, but for this, again, like, it wasn't intimidating. It was too mustache twirling for a franchise that I always felt like one thing you guys were good at is you had some great character villains, and Nah, they were weak. Your nitpick.
I'm gonna piggyback off of the same thing. Black Mask was his name, right? Yeah.
Black Mask, yes.
And I'm gonna make it really simple. You tried to insert the Joker in the movie without inserting the Joker.
Basically.
And you came up short. That's all it was. You tried to insert the Joker because it's Harley Quinn and the Joker, and because you don't know if that could stand on its own without the Joker. You tried to insert the Joker without inserting the Joker, and I'll be honest with you, you didn't fool the audience.
And it didn't land. It just didn't.
And it didn't land.
It just didn't land.
Because the whole time I was watching, and Ewan McGregor is a very credible actor.
Oh, that's a whole fact.
Actor. Okay, his believe me, out of all the actors in that movie, his resume is the longest and the best. And he looks like he had fun.
Oh no, without question, I think he had fun with it.
But make no mistake, as an audience member, all I saw was you just tried to get a low budget Joker in the movie. That's what I saw. So that was my nitpick is you thought the audience was stupid.
Okay.
And I'll leave it at that. You thought the audience was stupid. That as an audience member, I couldn't see what you were doing. You didn't know if you didn't know if a Harley Quinn movie could last without the Joker, so you inserted the Joker in there without inserting the Joker.
I'd agree. I actually really agree. I liked how you worded it. You try to get away with it. You try to sell us a movie without the Joker and try to still slide in the Joker.
Yeah, that's all. So I'll leave it at that.
And personally, my last nitpick, I had to talk about, man. Cassandra Cain. My personal last nitpick was Cassandra Cain.
Oh.
Cassandra Cain. Alright, this is the character for the movie. And down the line, I don't know if you know, she's actually part of the Bat family. Cassandra Cain. She becomes like a Bat. I think what name she went by? I forget. I know she was like a Bat girl, but I think she went by a different name, and I can't remember. She might have been actually. Did she take up the mantle as Bat girl? I can't remember, but she has a Bat costume and everything. I'm not mad at that because that wasn't clearly not the character you decided to bring into the film, so I'm not gonna judge it against something that is not. I will, however, judge it against what you tried to sell me on. This bullshit fake girl from the streets that can skip down the street in broad daylight and do some of the shoddiest pickpocketing I've ever seen if someone didn't just draw it and call it a cartoon. That was some bullshit. When I seen her skip and do all of that shit, I said, this is the movie you're giving me? And bless her heart, Journey Smollett, she tried to get in there and trying to bring the drama back with her serious face. It was like, baby, this ain't underground. This ain't underground. The movie you thought you was gonna be in.
You're not Rosalie.
Baby, this ain't the... And she tried. I remember she was like, you try to build with her because she was the wayward orphan that lived upstairs that had the arguments foster parents, and you had to drop some knowledge on her, but then you ran into her later on, and all that typical. It was so typical, but that whole scene when she skipped down the street and was just bumping it was just so fucking obvious what she was doing. It was like, oh my gosh, if you don't just get this little girl somewhere. Like, it was irking me. I was like, you know how most films, when they serious and they say, yo, I wanted to, like, get to know the character. I lived, to be Birdman. I lived in a pigeon coop on the roof for like weeks so I could live the character of a bird. Like, I don't even think you've seen someone that pick a pocket. Like, it was just like, yo, it was like, you could have done something. Like I said, when you have such a very simple plot and a thin script, you could have actually showed how she really could steal if it was that impressive. But clearly this movie didn't take it that kind of serious. And like I said, against itself, because it kind of was, like I said, if it's, in order for me to take it on, I have to look at it like, I look at Joel Schumacher's Batman more like a updated version of, a modern version of the Burt Ward and the Adam West films. I look at that as like, let's take those and make an updated version, and you get George Clooney and Chris O'Donnell, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So I feel like that's what that like it was like, if that's what you was trying to do and say, hey, let's make a spin-off off of Forever, then it would make more sense. Otherwise, it was, like I said, it was so cartoony that I was like, why didn't you just make a cartoon? Because the sad part is, a cartoon, if you would have gave that script to a cartoon director, I think they would have made a better film. I don't know. I mean, that's how I feel. Because for me, especially that scene, that pickpocket scene, it was like, nah, it just didn't do it for me. It really didn't do it for me.
Okay.
Your nitpick.
I actually don't have a final nitpick. I think that the two that I picked were the ones that stood out the most, which was the action sequences and the villain. You know, I think everything else kind of encompassed in it. So I don't really have another nitpick.
So can you give me your? Oh yes. Other than
that was enough. Just that those are my two nitpicks. And the only reason I picked the action sequences because I said the movie's goofy, so I should expect that. And it just found it annoying. And then, like I said, the second nitpick was the villain, and it was just, you tried to insult the audience intelligence by, not having.
She doesn't need a Joker, but you still gave us a Joker.
You tried to insert Joker in there without it being a Joker. That's all.
All right. So, any final thoughts on the film in terms of what you expected?
Are we giving our final review or just final?
I mean, yeah, you could give me your final review
for
it. I mean, I don't really focus too much because I figured when you go through the picks and the nitpicks, you kind of figure out where we land on it. But your final review on the film in terms of what you expected going in. Because you just seen it just to do the review set, so what you expected from it, and did it live up to what you expected?
So this is what I'll say. Like you, I'm used to entertain, and for the audience, I'm a big comic book fanatic. Now, I was born and raised off Marvel Comics, but I love comic books, and I love superhero stories. So this is right up my alley. I want every movie to win, because again, if the movie doesn't win, it's a waste of my time, waste of my money. So I want every movie to win. I didn't get into the politics of the behind the scenes and why this movie has an uphill battle. I just want to see a good film. With that said, between the years of 2000 and 2020, there have been over 100 superhero movies. 104 to be exact. So I'm just doing the last 20 years. There have been 104 superhero movies. Marvel.
That's the exact number. That's the exact number.
That's the exact number, 104. I looked it up. If you Google superhero movies from 2000, the year 2000, the number is 104. And that's everything. Marvel, DC, Hellboy, Ninja Turtles, whatever. If it's superhero, it's in there. And I actually started going through the list. I can honestly say Birds of Prey is hands down the worst superhero movie I've seen in 20 years. Mm. I made sure I went back just to make sure. I can say in the last 20 years, this is the worst superhero movie I've ever seen.
That's a big statement.
And I stand by it. And I actually, like I said, I did the research just to look. And no, this is the worst I've seen. And it's not even, and to be completely honest, it wasn't like well, maybe this could be worse. No, this was, I can honestly say, watching Birds of Prey, as I was watching it, I couldn't wait for it to end.
Oh, damn.
Yeah. I think it was of talented actresses. Margot Robbie is a talented actress. She's actually a good actress. Anybody seen Wolf of Wall Street, Zia Zakara, I, Tanya? Margot Robbie is actually a good actress. Jenny Smollett is a good actress. Rosie Perez is Academy nominated. Ewan McGregor. This movie has a nice pedigree of actors and actresses, or actors, however you want to use the term. And it was coming off of the Suicide Squad. Now, whether your personal feelings about the Suicide Squad are, it is a hit movie. That's why there is a suicide movie that's been made, because it was a hit. So if you're coming off of that, coming off of also the immense popularity of Margot Robbie. Margot Robbie she ran away with the movie. Suicide Squad, she was the standout. So you had a lot of positives coming behind it. And on top of that, if you really want to do the whole social thing, you're coming off the push of we need women action heroes, that push. So, and so Birds of Prey had a lot going. The momentum was going in its direction to win. It had the momentum to win. But I found...
Yes?
Huh?
I mean, this is what I was gonna I didn't want to really interrupt, but I did want to say, but then that kind of goes back to, I mean, just like how you brought up the climate around everything, then you have to also take into consideration the other stuff that was happening around it that brought the film to where it landed for you. Would it not? Would you not?
No, because I can draw the comparison, and guess what? I'll give you another movie, Wonder Woman. Right? Now, obviously, Wonder Woman is a bigger name, but let's be honest. Gal Gadot made an appearance as Wonder Woman in Batman v Superman. She was a standout. In Batman v Superman. She was a standout. For many people, she was a bigger standout. Obviously, there's been out of Batman, but for some people, she was just as big of a standout as Wonder Woman. Guess what? You had that, the standout, in a big, successful movie. Whether you like Batman v Superman, financially, it's a successful movie. So I'm drawing the same two comparisons. Now, you had Wonder Woman. This is also the push. We want female action stars, a female director. It had the same, everything was moving in its direction. Now, obviously, Wonder Woman had a bigger name, but Margot Robbie is a bigger star and a more credible actress than Gal Gadot. So, let's say that cancels each other out. Here's the difference. Wonder Woman had an amazing execution. Birds of Prey didn't. Wonder Woman had a tone. Birds of Prey didn't know what it wanted to do. But Wonder Woman made use of its good actors. We're not just talking about Chris Pine. We're talking about Robin Wright. We're talking about Connie Nelson. For those of you who may not know those names, Robin Wright was a House of Cards. Connie Nelson has been around for years. Most people know her from Gladiator. It made use of its credible actors. It gave them something. And they were in smaller roles than the Birds of Prey and was given more to work with. So both these movies had similar trajectory. That's the word. I always get tongue-tied with that one. They had a similar path. One just had the execution and the other didn't. And that's how I look at it. For me, Birds of Prey is, in the last 2 decades, the worst superhero movie I've ever seen.
Okay. Well, I mean,
and I leave it at that.
Well, my final take is, I mean, to parrot off what you're saying and what I was initially what I picked out from what you were speaking on. I do think that a lot of the things around it, around the film, actually did lend itself to navigate where the film ended up leaving in terms of you wanted to have your female superhero. So, and this is you as you drew your comparisons, just like with Wonder Woman 84, when people tried to draw it against the guys and the girls, you get a Gal Gadot that's made it very clear, no, 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 we're for everyone. Whereas in Birds of Prey, they were couching that. And to be honest, they shot themselves in the foot because I didn't really get all of that. We're against the patriarchy situation. Other than that weird ass moment where he told Black Mass told him to cut the dress off the girl. It was like, you're trying to be creepy, but it just seemed real weird, more awkward. But hold on, if I may. They said that they wanted to. I heard they cut a sizzle reel, and how the movie was pitched was it was supposed to tear down the patriarchy. And this is what you let go out into the media, into the public. Now, all things aside, with the leak saying that what was supposed to be grafted in the diamond, I'm not sure if you heard of, but they said it was supposed to be like a nude picture of himself, or quote unquote, as Grace might have put it, a dick pic. But then she got into it with the director over that but that's behind the scenes stuff again, and not to say that that's going to trample on my thoughts on the film. My thing is that this also goes into the making of the film, whether that was accurate or not. One thing that is for sure is that they were setting the stage publicly that they were going to challenge all of these social norms and everything that's going on today in terms of representation, and they trying to surf the representation wave. And I'll be honest with you, you did that with the female Ghostbusters, and you blew it by over pushing it at a time where if you would have took the temperature of the community out there, it was not a shot. You don't have to sell it that way and think that, oh, you're it's almost like you're bowing. No, you can still make that movie, but you ain't gotta sell it that way. Because what I got out the movie was I ain't getting none of that extra patriarchy stuff that they were trying to sell. I didn't even get it in. That was a funny thing. I saw Birds of Prey and I didn't get all of that. I already told you guys how I felt about the film. But I do feel like you put the yawn already in people, your core audience that follows the film so much on a nerd level that they're willing to get all the leaks and still come to spend their money, go watch it. And then even when you realize more guys came out to go see it than girls, then you made, like I said, they made it more of a political statement, this film. And I'll be honest with you, the film wasn't even highbrow enough that it could even stand on that. So it was like you wasted the point of even overly pushing this agenda. And if it was in there, baked in there, I would not have even noticed it. So you didn't have to sell it like that. And I think people would have it might have worked a little bit better. But in terms of at least people coming out to go see it, because I think people shot it down so much from the very beginning, getting followed up in the leaks. And let's be for real, the vocal minority can't tank films, can't tank franchises. We've seen it, and we've seen it with DC. The same vocal, well, not maybe not the same exact, but the same vocal minority that got rid of Zack Snyder. A lot of these same people, oh, it's great to see Zack Snyder, Ben Affleck, my Batman. Y'all was the ones that hated him the most before you even seen the first test shot. like, you know what I'm saying? So I think that they put a certain energy around the film that already made people have preconceived notions before they even went to go see it. But again, judging the film on itself, because that's more, to me, that's why I start looking at how you marketed the film. Because if you market a film a certain kind of way and you don't deliver even on what you're marketing, then is that part of the reason why your film didn't sell? I mean, once we get into why you disconnected with the film, I mean, I think that's like a worthy conversation on the larger topic of the actual film encompassing the industry as well. But as a film on its own, I mean, again, I can't stress enough. I mean, I won't. It's definitely in the bottom end of superhero films for me, and I'm just an easily entertained guy. I can still put it on. I mean, the only difference is I could literally put it on, and because I do so much, it'll just be background noise to me. And then I kind of come in however I come in on it, But it's not something that I would say, dag, if I got something, if I got movie time, I'm gonna go. Let's go break out Birds of Prey. That's not gonna happen. If I need something to be on in the background while I read or something, maybe. But it's definitely not a film that, I mean, I will give it a revisit some way down the line, no time soon. And I don't say that begrudgingly either. I mean, just like with time being what it is, I ain't got that kind of time to waste on this film. I seen it, to be honest, 3 times. The first time I missed like the first 30 to 45 minutes. The second time I actually was able to go to the theaters, and I watched it in the theaters, and it was kind of empty in the theater. And then I saw it again just so we could do this review. So I've seen it 3 times this year already. And yeah, I don't see me closing out the year sitting down watching this for a fourth. That I highly doubt that. I highly doubt that. But again, like I said, I mean, you had some credible actors, and it's just an unfortunate situation that maybe the disconnect was the director. Definitely the script, whoever wrote this, and I think you would have to kind of blame the director. You should have asked for someone to work on the script. But if I'm not mistaken, the director was the one that cut the sizzle reel of her vision of what she wanted to tackle, and if she felt like she achieved it with this film, even though I'm hearing that the people complaining that certain demographics ain't come out to support it. At the end of the day, a movie's a movie, man. And you're talking to a guy like me that just came to be entertained, and even though I still was entertained, and I could pull and say like, yo, it looks nice in terms of like a lot of the costume designs. Once you start going into the Birds of Prey, they just look like I didn't know what the hell you was doing with them, costume wise, even they startup gear. It just seemed like you was going for a whole other kind of tone that was just mishmashy. And like I said, I mean, at the end of the day, it just didn't land for me to even consider it a credible movie. And even in the canon of where we at with such credible comic book films, and I'm really into comic book films because I like to see people treat these characters very seriously and flesh them out. They could be very interesting, and I don't believe you have to be, I mean, well, you should read the comic, but you don't have to be. I've grown to understand that you could have so much. These characters can be malleable depending on what kind of, how you want to set them in. So we could go from mobsters to gangsters with the with gang kind of look for the Gotham villainry. What is it? The villains of Gotham. We could go from the mob look to the gang look, and I could see what you're doing. But in this, it was, you still need a script. You still need a good solid script, or be a interesting director enough to carry this film through to at least be at the level of a credible film. And that doesn't mean that it has to be all the way serious, but at least have a story. And I felt like we've gotten away from these type of simple ass films that if you couldn't find anything more interesting to do with it, this could have sat in the back, go as one of those scripts that people kept playing with for years and years and years. And this is where I will close it on the background. I think this is what happens when you lead with, oh, she's the greatest in there, so we gave her so much power that I think that you let her run away with everything. And someone should have been over her shoulder, like, yo, at least give them a guiding light. Not to just, I mean, I'm all for a good pitch, but someone should have guided them through, like, all right, I see your pitch. Maybe we could do something, but we gotta gut this out and figure out why would, even if you want to tell the story of Harley Quinn breaking up from the Joker, you would still want to go off of the Joker. We want to go through like flashbacks and stuff like that. And even if you're not gonna have Jared Leto for it, there has to be a creative way around it. Otherwise, let's not touch it unless you have a better story. And I think they should have just told them, yo, I think you need a better, stronger story, because I get your concept, your idea of what you want to tackle, but I'm reading it. Unless it looked better on off the page reading it, this, I don't know what you was gonna get out of this. So that's my final word. And it seemed like you had one last thing you wanted to say.
Well, I was just gonna say, I mean, I'm really simple about it. The back end politics of the movie, I'm not concerned with. All the identity politics and all that, it all boils down to one thing: you made a bad film.
I mean, that's a fact, but I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, like you started off with the climate and everything going in. It just be only fair to mention.
No, I get what you're saying, but I said it had, with the climate, it had everything going in its direction. Why it failed was because you made a bad film. If you made guess what? If everything was going against the movie, and I'll give you another one where everything was against the movie. James Cameron's Titanic. If you look at the history of James Cameron's Titanic, not only did it run almost 4 or 5 months longer, it was way over.
That's a different time.
But I'm just using, everything was going against Titanic. At the end of the day,
not the script.
Just was going against Titanic. But James Cameron dropped a movie that was good. And word of mouth carried the movie. Birds of Prey had everything going for it. But at the end of the day, you made a bad film.
Understood.
If Birds of Prey had everything going against it, but made a good film, it would have been a success.
Well,
this wasn't an independent movie.
I mean, I mean, in the realm of what's going against it and for it. Again, I would think, and maybe we could just agree to disagree. I think what was going for it and against it, a lot of the backhand politics. It's the same thing I was just expressing. I think a lot of that was going against it when you put the star before the film.
But what I'm saying,
I think that was going against the film.
I think what you're missing is, I'm saying that has nothing to do with its failure or success.
I mean, we understood that. I mean, we're actually talking. I'm just saying we're in the realm of. I'm just saying in the realm of talking, just as you would talk, as you would bring up what was going for it. Maybe I didn't clarify it, but with the things that was going around in the background, just wasn't going for it. Like, again, you led with, you knew you wanted Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn. Clearly, that's all that movie was about. But you didn't know what to do with it. You ran with that. To me, that was ridiculous. You didn't have a story to tell. You wanted to go with your agenda first, and you knew we had Harley Quinn. It would look good to have Margot Robbie have all this liberty towards the film in terms of selecting the director. She also co-produced it. She had a lot of presence in that film. Like, make no mistake, she's like an executive producer of that movie. She had a lot of say so. And again, I think that kind of went against the film. If you knew this was an actress led film, but you want to sell the Birds of Prey, but you really want to sell the character. It was already, you made the movie more big headed than it needed to be. Not to say Margot Robbie was big headed. You just threw everything. It was all about her in a movie that was supposed to be Birds of Prey. I think you shot yourself in the foot, and most people that was most of the audience. Many people in the audience said that this was a Harley Quinn movie. This wasn't even a Birds of Prey, and that was one of the biggest amongst critiques of a lot of people. So I mean, maybe we could just agree to disagree, but I do think that that was something that needed to be spoken upon in terms of what was for it and also was against it. That's why I parried off of what you said. But again, you get the last take on that.
Yeah, and just one last thing. You know, I know a lot of people. The criticism is it's a Harley Quinn movie, not a bird. It's a Harley Quinn movie, not a Birds of Prey movie. It's interesting because I kind of thought that didn't bother me because I thought the title of the movie suggested that it was a Harley Quinn movie. Birds of Prey, the Fantabulous Emancipation of Harley Quinn. Like, it kind of almost said itself, like, you ladies are playing.
I mean, a lot of people speculated that's what it was going to be about in the beginning, too, as well. But yeah, I feel you. I mean,
people are not just saying, for me in general, personally, I've heard that complaint. Like, this was a Harley Quinn movie, not a Birds of Prey movie. And my answer was, the title kind of tells you that it's about Harley Quinn. It's called.
I mean, well, actually, the fact that they greenlit the movie kind of told you that anyway.
Yeah. Like, I just thought, like, I kind of like, I wasn't disappointed that the Birds of Prey didn't get a lot of screen time because I didn't expect it. Because even in the title, title kind of let me know that, you know, that Harley Quinn was Diana Ross, and you were the other ladies. You know what I mean? That's you know what I mean. That's kind of, you know, she was Gladys Knight, and you guys, the rest were the Pips. You know, it was kind of in the title.
No, I feel what you're saying.
Yeah.
I mean, but I think a lot of people just kind of, even though they led with the title, and again, you're absolutely right. I just think that people was just excited to see more characters be developed in this world, and when people was just hoping that they would have got a lot more Birds of Prey. But without question, I think even the nerds online kind of were speculating on it, and everybody said the same thing when they finally came out. Said, yeah, it's really a Harley Quinn movie, and I guess at the end of the day, Harley Quinn wasn't enough for a movie. I don't think you'll see another film like that again coming from DCEU. At least not for a long time, because I think she had other ideas to do more like that. That's not gonna happen unless this next Suicide Squad she becomes a standout. And I know James, what's his name? The guy that's shooting that. James Gunn. I'm going to say James Wan. James Gunn. He actually gave her a lot of praise. I felt like he did that for I felt like that was more business, but that's neither here nor, because it was just kind of awkward that when she just kind of left, and I think they kind of shoehorned her in at the end. I don't know if she was always initially going to be into it, because I kind of remember when she finally jumped into it, it was like, okay, but it kind of felt like they were already filming. But at the end of the day, he went out of his way to be like, oh, she's so amazing, so great. And it was like right after the movie bombed. Right after that movie came out and bombed, he felt the need to scream out how amazing she was. And I always thought that was kind of weird. Are you just overselling it? Did something happen on a scene where maybe she wanted to do a lot more, have more say on the character, but now you're just, I don't know, it felt like too political when no one even asked. But I feel like if this movie she stands out in, they may give her another shot, but I highly doubt it. But in any event, you guys got to see how we felt about it. But again, as always, it's not always about what we think. It's about what you guys think. So jump in the comments below and let's get on with the conversation. And let's just keep chopping it up about the movies that we love. So, final words, sign-offs, and everything. T.
Until the next time, I don't want to, give this movie any more. I think I've said everything I have to say. So until the next time in the next movie.
All right, man.
Everyone have a good night.
And like I always say, like, share, subscribe. See you next time. And as always, till I have a better outro. Chill.